Hello there, I'm Mitch Hahn, CEO, Nordens Chartered Accountants, and today we're going to talk about R&D. So R&D, it stands for research and development, and it refers to a set of innovative activities undertaken by businesses or governments in developing new services or products, as well as improving existing ones. As you can see, I'm joined by Nordens Director of Strategic Consultancy, Joe Sword, who's going to touch upon some of the way that R&D can be combined with our strategic department here. And we also have the pleasure of having Nordens Tax Manager, Adam Trullock, with us today. So Adam is our R&D expert here at Nordens, where he has a proven track record. I hope you don't mind me saying, Adam, a proven track record of successful R&D applications, as well as having the knowledge of pretty much everything when it comes to R&D and the ins and outs of the scheme. So the whole reason we wanted to do a dedicated video on R&D for our clients and audience is due to the fact that R&D is all over the news over the past month or so. I myself have appeared recently on the Times Radio. We were featured in the Sunday Times, where we spoke extensively about R&D and its huge benefits, as well as the numerous fraudulent claims being put into HMRC, which is now which we'll hear about, being seriously clamped down upon with a reform to R&D policy set by the government. R&D also was a key part of the recent autumn budget, which many have overlooked, with the obvious headlines being changes to personal tax rates and thresholds, capital gains tax, pensions, and other things. But it did play a part in the autumn budget. So let's move swiftly. So firstly, let's come to Adam, who I just want to give Adam, you can come on and give a detailed summary of R&D, what it can do, the application process, and how can it really help businesses. Welcome, Adam. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for that. So if we start with the basic, what is R&D? Essentially, it's when you do any kind of research and development of any kind of scientific or technology advancement in any field, really. That could be building an app, building a new piece of technology, computer or whatever. It's anything that's not on the market at the moment, where you've had to go off and do your research and everything like that. If it's something you can do a quick Google search on and find the answer, it's not R&D. You have to have done some extensive research into it, had failures, done beta testing, all of that lot. A lot of people will say, like, who can claim for R&D? A lot of people think it's only sort of IT companies, technology companies. It's not. Anyone can claim for R&D. I've had situations in the past where, for example, like bricklayers and builders have developed new kind of technologies and new ways to lay bricks, essentially. And as long as it's repeatable and you can do it every time, and it's a new piece of technology out there in the field, you can claim it as R&D. It's not specifically for IT companies who build an app. It's not only for them. It's a wide range of things can come from it. I've had another company where they built a new mobile lighting system for floodlights that go at events and stuff like that. The whole system's mobile, and they had to do a lot of research into the batteries and the fuel and how to move them and all stuff like that. So it's not specifically about apps. It is for apps as well. So if you're building a new app that is different for whatever reason, it's not necessarily just building an app. But if you're building apps, that can also go into R&D as well. At the moment, it's quite simple how HMRC do these claims. You essentially build a report, which we can help you with, and we do that for you. You build a report breaking down what your R&D expenses are, what your activity was, what the actual development was, what you was trying to build. That all goes into a report, and that goes to HMRC. And then what happens is, with your expenses, they get multiplied depending on what scheme you're on, RDEC or the small company scheme. It either gets multiplied by 100, 130%, so it goes up. So for argument's sake, let's say your expenses were £10,000 that you spent on your research, that would get multiplied up to 13,000, and you'd have an additional 13,000 expense in there. And then what essentially that does is either brings down your profit. So if your profit was 100 grand, that's going to bring that down to 87. And you're only going to pay tax on 87 now, or it could completely wipe out your profit and give you a loss. In which case, with the loss, you can either roll that loss backwards and set it off against previous years, or you can sacrifice that loss altogether and get a tax credit of 14.5%. Things are slightly changing on that, which we can talk about later, but at the moment, that's how it stands up to the end of March. It's a great scheme. And for companies who are actually out there developing and doing research on new products, which there is a lot of companies doing, it's great to get that bit of kind of cash flow back into the company. And that cash flow can then go towards developing the product more, or other things within the company. It's a great scheme. It's great.
I think recently when I was on the Times Radio, I was trying to explain. I mean, they were talking more about the fraudulent claims that were going on and everything like that. And I was trying to explain to them that it is it's great for tax. It's great for your business if you are developing and you actually are doing R&D, but also it's great for the economy as well. I mean, if you look at all the technologies that we're using at the moment, the Ubers and I'm sure all our black taxi drivers are going to be hating me for that, but Uber, Deliveroo, all these companies that started with a development, they probably definitely used R&D to be able to fund their projects. So it's fantastic. It's a fantastic scheme. If you are doing R&D, it's absolutely fantastic. It can, thanks, Adam. That was brilliant. You explained that in a lot more detail, and I think everyone watching should understand it slightly more. It can really transform a business. And like I just said, it can really benefit a particular sector through progression and innovation. So that's just I want to kind of go towards Joe now. So Joe, I want to come to you to talk about some of the ways over the years that you and your advisory department have assisted in the R&D process for clients. And I think that it would be from, you would kind of see how it's developed sort of within their business rather than as an actual project, if that makes sense, how businesses are sort of innovating with it. So go on, take it away. I'll leave it with you.
So hi Mitch, hi everyone. So yeah, from our point of view, one of the things that we're constantly working on with clients is sort of innovation, creativity, working towards goals. And I think working with an advisor or a business coach such as ourselves gives that different perspective. And what we do a lot of the time with our clients is brainstorm ideas, or clients bring ideas to the table that they might not be totally happy with, but they just want maybe a sense check. And all of a sudden, that reassurance we can give them that it is actually commercially viable, because we can help them do the numbers to make sure it is, or has the leg, so to speak, can actually be the starting point of looking at R&D and bringing that forward. So I think it couples really, really well. And I think just covering the topic of R&D stimulates that creativity within businesses. And a lot of the clients that we work with were not initially aware of it until we brought it to their attention. And I think that's one of the part of the issue, where a lot of businesses out there are innovating and they're not getting the claim because they're just simply not aware of it. So hopefully some of the people listening today will be a lot more aware of what qualifies and what R&D actually is off the back of what Adam's been explaining. But I think from an advisory point of view, I think it's important that businesses are looking to innovate anyway, because I think, we're in tough times in the economy and everything else at the moment. So I think having that sort of creative, innovative hat is perfectly placed with entrepreneurs anyway. It's what they're good at. They build businesses, they build things, they create things. And I think, like you've just mentioned, Mitch, and like Adam mentioned before, the relief itself is fantastic and it promotes innovation. So I think first and foremost, it's important that you know that it's out there, but I think it should be part of the platform of your overall growth strategy within your business, and we've seen that with a lot of clients. They've been perhaps to and fro in between two different options, and they've realized that if they go down one route, they've got a much bigger chance of qualifying for R&D, which is fantastic. So obviously that's been an incentive for them to perhaps take something on or undertake a project they might not have done before, which is great for them, and it's great for the wider economy as well.
Just to jump in, sorry, that doesn't necessarily mean create a product for the outside world or an app. That could also be improving your current systems as well, right?
Totally, yeah, and that's probably a big chunk of a lot of the clients' claims. You know, they've spotted inefficiencies in their own working practices, and they've actually made that better, because that will therefore affect their bottom line, make them more profitable, make their people able to do more effective things within the business. It's about taking away some of these mundane tasks that have just been done because it's the way it's always been done over the years. But I think coming back a little bit, it is important that you work with a specialist R&D provider, because I think, as you sort of alluded to, Mitch, there's a lot of stigma around fraudulent claims and people promising the world and not delivering this. So I think you need to couple with someone like ourselves, like Adam and his team, with a proven track record in understanding all the intricacies and making the claims, because it sounds simple in a real headline way, but there are a lot of intricacies to it. And from our point of view, you're much more likely to complete a successful claim and cover the widest range of possible areas if you work with a specialist who's done it, they've seen everything, or as many different scenarios as you can probably imagine. So I think that's really, really important.
Can I just add to that? I think when I was talking on the Times, I was explaining that there are a lot of companies that you'll find online that will say they can get maximum claims and maximum results, and they'll only take a percentage of what they get you, which is within their interest to put through. But the problem is I'm sure Adam and you, Joe, will touch on it, is HMRC are inquiring into everything at the moment. You know, even the top are, you know, the top 4 that put R&D claims in, HMRC will check. And I think what you don't want to do is you don't want to get into the mistake of using those firms that will go and put through silly things in your R&D claim, and then when an inquiry comes, they're nowhere to be seen, because it happens all the time. And then you've got firms like us that end up having to go in and pick up the pieces, and you end up losing money because those firms have to charge you for dealing with those inquiries. So
No, I've seen. Sorry, just jump in there. I've seen it before. Like, people have come to me and gone, "Yeah, I've built a website. I want to claim R&D." You can't claim R&D just for building a website.
Yeah.
And then they'll come back 6 months later and they've gone to, you know, any Tom, Dick, or Harry on the internet, and they've done this claim for a website, and it's madness. There's these pop-up companies out there who'll, you know, set up, do your claim, and then when it all kind of goes wrong, they're nowhere to be seen. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is legit companies out there who can help you. You just have to be careful about who you go to. And I mean, we do it all here, and we can, you know, help everyone through that process.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think one of the things the Times mentioned was that didn't dry cleaners try to put through sort of washing machines, or they tried to put through.
Yeah, there's a big one going around at the minute. Dentists. I don't know who the R&D company is, but they've essentially gone round to all these dentists all over the country and gone, "Oh, you can claim for this, that, and it's not a claim at all. You know, it's standard dentist practicing."
They take advantage of not understanding what you can and can't do. But that's listen. I think we'll touch on it, and I think that's why we're doing this video, which is great. Joe, how can I mean, you work with businesses day in, day out, right? How can businesses work out if they're eligible for R&D?
Well, I think to start off with, I think it's understanding the headline points that Adam made about what qualifies and what doesn't qualify, you know, without it being obvious that it doesn't. You know, I think keep an open mind and ask the question. I think it's really just explaining what you do in your business, but also what your future plans are. And then a specialist such as Adam or his team can delve down deeper and decide for you whether you're eligible, you know. So you don't really have to spend a lot of time to and fro in working out whether you're eligible as the business owner. If you are developing something, if you are doing something that you feel might be research and development, speak up and talk to us, and we'll tell you one way or the other whether we feel like you've got the opportunity for a claim. So I think it's more that, I think that's the sort of process I would look to follow as a business owner.
I think it just shows why it's so important to work with an advisor as often as you possibly can, to have these regular conversations. And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier about sort of building R&D into your growth plans. Because it's probably, I mean, I wonder the stat, I mean, it's impossible to find out the stats to say, or the data to say how many businesses have stopped doing something or taken out of their growth plans because they thought that it's not priority because they wouldn't be able to finance it. Whereas if you kind of know that because they didn't know R&D was there. But if you look, R&D tax credits are there, this actually, what we're trying to do actually qualifies for R&D, great, there's funding for it. So I wonder which is the whole purpose of R&D tax credits, which is, I wonder how many businesses have kind of not fallen behind, but have had to hold back on their plans. But I think I don't think we'll be able to get that, data.
The other thing worth considering as well is that you can go back, I believe, one full year, isn't it, Adam? But I think we've had clients in the past where one of their biggest regrets was, I wish I'd have spoken up earlier, or I wish my advisor had told me about this. You
can do an R&D claim 2 years after the year end, and there has been times people have come to me, now we're just having a general sort of conversation, and someone will come up and it's like, oh, hold on, might be able to do R&D on this. And they've been doing it for 3-4 years, and you've missed out on 2 years of it.
Yeah.
Nothing we can do now. I think it's always worth, even if you think it's a possibility, have a chat. 15-20 minute chat, I can get an idea of whether or not you're going to have a claim.
And I think it's important to say though, Adam, that although it's 15-20 minute chat, it's also after that 15-minute chat, there is a huge there is a process that will need to take you through to actually make sure that you do qualify.
Yeah, I'm not saying 15-20 minute chat and you're done, but but in that chat, it might, you can come to me going, oh, I'm doing this, and no, it's not qualified, and then then at least, or it might be a case of, well, no, actually, no, you might have something here, and then we book a meeting up and we'll go for it and delve into it properly.
Well, I think, sorry, I'm just a bit conscious of time, but I think that we're going to address that now. So that's what I wanted to say. That firstly is thanks, Joe and Adam. I think it's really interesting to see how advisory and R&D is kind of combined, because you can build it into your growth plans. But Adam, just as what you were just saying, let's address this elephant in the room, right?
Yeah.
And let's accept and admit that R&D hasn't really been in the news for the best of reasons, which we were just kind of touched on. A lot of media attention, discovering that the approval process from HMRC has been extremely lax, right? We all know that's the case. Although they have changed that, or are changing that. There's lots of fraudulent businesses and boutique firms that are taking advantage of the scheme. And whilst the identification and punishment of these illegitimate claims are welcomed, it's tarnished the reputation of R&D to the wider public.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's disappointing because, as we were just saying, that when R&D is used correctly, it's a great scheme. It's incredible. It's brilliant. And it kind of, it doesn't just benefit businesses, but also the industry that they're in as a whole. So, Adam, if you could explain maybe so that we get an understanding of why HMRC have been lax in the approval process of awarding R&D, and I guess also the new reforms set by the government recently. And will this solve the problem, do you think?
I mean, problem is, if someone really wants to do a fraudulent claim, they will do one, won't they, at the end of the day? But I mean, they are doing things to change. I mean, at the moment, HMRC, about 9 out of 10, claims that go in don't even get looked at. They just go through the automatic kind of processing system that they've got there, refunds get sent out. They're not even picked up. So this is why I think people out there have realised, hold on, we've got a 90% chance of getting through here without even getting looked at. So there has been lots of fraudulent claims, but HMRC are really trying to clamp down on this. They've brought in quite a few changes, some back in the mini budget, which is a bit irrelevant now, but there were some changes in that budget which stayed, and then in the recent autumn budget just gone. So I'll start with kind of the changes to the filing process and everything like that, and I'll go into the other changes. So they're bringing in a new kind of online system to do where you have to. It's not just a kind of report that you can make how you see fit. It's a specified template online form that you have to complete, break down into sections and everything like that. You have to complete it all, so all the information's there. That's going to make things life easier for the revenue, because if you don't fill in the information, if it's not there, you don't get your claim. They're also putting a lot of money into staff to check these things and pick them up and make sure they're done properly. We're starting to see it coming now, although all these changes are technically happening from April 23. We're starting to see a few things now, questions being asked now that we wouldn't usually think we'd see. But I mean, it's not an issue. We can answer them, and that's not a problem. Claims are also taking longer, where lots of people are now putting in claims before that April 23 deadline. So there's a lot of claims going in. So claims are taking a bit longer at the moment, but it's kind of what happens when the revenue change rules, unfortunately. So yeah, they're bringing in that. They also bring in a thing where you have to advise HMRC you're going to make a claim within 6 months of the year end. You don't necessarily have to give them the details and put the claim in. That's still 2 years, but you have to let them know you're going to make a claim. So if you reach your year end, your year end's December, for example, you've got to the end of June to say to HMRC, we had an R&D project. We want a claim. We are going to make one. And the idea of that is to stop people kind of getting to a point going, well, hold on, we could do something here, and then going back 2 years and doing it. It's going to stop people doing that. There was some questions of whether or not they are actually going to bring that rule in. As far as I'm aware, it's still coming in. Also, you have to give details of an advisor you've spoke to. And that advisor is going to have to be qualified and know what they're doing. It can't just be a friend from down the pub. So it's going to be a case of people actually have to go through an advisor and do these claims to go through to HMRC. So HMRC, one, will be able to say, well, hold on, we're getting a lot of fraudulent claims from XYZ Limited. Let's have a look at them. And they know that things have actually, someone's actually looked into them and put the right things in. Few other changes that are coming in. So they're actually decreasing the allowance. So earlier on, I said it's 113%, so 10 grand up to 13 grand. They're actually bringing that down to 86%. So you spend 10 grand, you're now only going to get an additional 8,600. The idea is that with the increase in corporation tax, it should even out, and you should still get mostly the same claim. Whether or not that's going to be a case, only time will tell. But that is coming down. The tax credit as well. So if you create a loss in your company with the R&D claim, up until March 23, the end of March 23, you can claim 14.5% tax credit on that loss. That's been dropped down to 10%. So you'll only be able to, you'll be able to claim less of a tax credit on that. But they're the main changes coming in. They're all coming in as of April 23. So R&D is going to be a very different ball game from then on.
Yeah, but it's still there and it's still going strong, and we'll have to wait and see if this does come into fruition, because the government obviously, what is the amount of changes there's been, but we'll see if it comes in. But I guess at the moment it's strongly going to be put in place from April 23. But it just goes to show how highly the government hold R&D in terms of innovation on a global scale. I think it's really, on a positive, it's really encouraging to see them prioritizing R&D in terms of sort of budgeting and investing more money to improve the harness of the scheme to, and drive technological and scientific innovation, because that's what, we're living in that world right now.
Another rule they've brought in as well, is activities have to be carried out in the UK now as well.
Yeah.
So obviously the idea is to encourage people to come into the UK and do your work here, spend the money here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I mean, they're really trying to build the economy, aren't they?
They're really trying to, yeah.
Brilliant. So Joe, I want to come to you and ask you a question. Well, obviously the new rules coming in. Do you know advising businesses? That's what your team do. So do you think, or will you be advising that that businesses should wait for the new reforms to come in place in April 23, or should they be looking to do stuff and sort of use where we're currently at now before they change things?
Well, I think in terms of R&D, if we look at what it is, it's an incentive and a benefit of creating innovation and things like that. So the reality is you should not be waiting at all. You should always be looking to innovate and have it as part of your business strategy. You can only see companies that were nowhere have really fast forwarded by the use and the embracement of technology and such things. So we're in a great place in the respect where we can make things more efficient, more effective, better, and create new things with the use of technology and other processes. So I think ultimately it should be a fundamental of your overall business strategy. The tax changes in April 2023 are just really a small part of that, and that isn't the real reason you should be innovating. It's an added benefit, granted, but I think if you don't look to create and innovate, make things better, like you mentioned earlier, making your own internal processes and systems really, really streamlined and effective, you're going to fall behind as a business because other businesses out there will be doing that. And also coming away and looking at your customer experience. What do you and what does your business deliver for customers, and how can you look at other businesses in other industries and adopt their model in your industry? Because we're seeing a lot of that where people are analyzing other, like you mentioned earlier, like Uber, for example, what they've done, the on-demandness of it. You can actually get something instantly, the instantaneous model that everyone seems to be loving at the moment, where people want things on demand. They want things yesterday. You order a package from Amazon, it's here. How can you apply that in your own industry? What can you do to take really positive things that are happening in other businesses, maybe not even in your industry, into your own industry? So there's some things to look at. But coming back to sort of your original question, I wouldn't be waiting at all. It should be part of your business strategy. And I think it's one of them things that, like we've sort of said already, if you are doing something that you might think is innovative, have a chat with us. Like Adam said, it will take you through a vetting process. If you qualify, fantastic. If you don't, you might redirect, or you might carry on with it, but you just won't get an R&D claim. But the R&D claim is an added benefit. It shouldn't be seen as the one and only reason you innovate in your business. So I think it should form part of the overall strategy, and I think it's important. But like you mentioned, Mitch, one of the things that is really positive is, if you can assess that you are going to get a healthy claim for R&D, you can build that into your numbers, and then you can start doing other things to continue to move your business forward. So it really can help. And it's just a shame that we've seen over the years, like Adam mentioned earlier, so many businesses that have missed out because they just weren't aware. So hopefully from our point of view, people will be more aware of it after what we've been saying today.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, guys, thank you so much. I think you heard it from both Adam and Joe, and a little bit from myself, that if you've got a little inkling and you think you may be eligible for R&D, or you're looking to do some kind of R&D, or you're still unsure what R&D is, then it's worth having a quick chat with us to determine if you do qualify for R&D, or how, or if you don't, or how you can. Do you know what? Also, even if you don't qualify for R&D, there may be other areas, sort of gaps in the business, or other sorts of funding, or other sorts of credits that that you're not aware of, which, where support could be applied. So it's definitely worth getting in touch if you're unsure, or if you're sure and you want us to support a claim or help you with your claim. So here we're still offering a free review of businesses to see if they're eligible for a claim. So get in touch, we'll do the rest. I just want to say a huge thank you for your time, Joe and Adam, for joining me today to go over the details of R&D, the changes of R&D, and how R&D can actually really seriously benefit your business if you do it properly. As always, if there's anything at all we've spoken about which resonates with you, or you need some further clarification, then please do not be afraid to get in touch. Guys, thank you very much for your time this morning. Great. Have a good day.
Cheers, Mitch. Thanks, guys.
Right.
Cheers.